Okay, so I chose to watch Orange is the New Black, and so the main plot was Piper Chapman. She's a 31-year-old white woman who is sentenced to 15 months in prison for carrying a bag of drug money, which was $50,000 to Belgium for her ex-girlfriend Alex Voss. And prior to prison, Piper owned a bath soap business in Brooklyn. She comes from a wealthy family and was spoiled as a teenager. She is originally from Connecticut. Chapman is also bisexual and is in college. And in college was in a relationship with Alex Voss, who was a drug smuggler. And then 10 years prior to the series beginning, she carried drug money from Colombia to Belgium with Voss. Eventually, Chapman did not like the lifestyle she was living and broke up with her girlfriend. And then she began dating Larry Bloom, to whom she got engaged. Then she decided to turn herself in and goes to prison, where she meets a bunch of different inmates, which is where the show starts. So the main characters that were involved, Piper Chapman is the main protagonist of the story, and she's a rich white woman who runs her own soap business. And she seems innocent at the beginning of the show and is also bisexual, which is what we see in prison because of her former relationship with another character, Alex Voss. Alex Voss is a white woman who is a drug smuggler and is Piper's ex-girlfriend. Alex seems very manipulative and also keeps to herself while she's in prison. Miss Claudia is a very strict and feared black inmate at the prison. She is very grumpy and holds her bunkmates to high standards, which we see when Piper joins her bunk and moves in with her. Red is an older white woman who runs the kitchen at the prison and also runs the white part of the prison. She is respected by most prisoners because she affects what they're served in the kitchen and has a lot of influence with the main guard. Larry Bloom is Piper's fiance. He is supportive of Piper in her decision to turn herself in and even proposes to her before she turns herself in and goes to prison. So my first reaction to this show and my general opinion and what I liked and disliked about it. My first reaction to the show was that it was very explicit and seemed kind of weird, but it seemed really interesting. As the show went on, I became more and more interested and curious, and I really like the documentary type shows, which is kind of what Orange is the New Black is like. The countertypes that I noticed while watching, some of the countertypes was first and foremost the fact that the main character was bisexual. Usually in popular TV shows, the main character is straight, and also all of the main characters in the show are women, which is not very common in TV shows today. One last countertype that I noticed was that when Piper told her parents about her being bisexual in her past, they weren't really upset about her being bisexual, and they even make jokes about it. Like her mom talks about how she kissed a girl when she was in college and stuff. So, and they didn't really react like typical parents would, I guess. They really didn't think much of it. The stereotypes I noticed while watching was that the main character, Piper, was not only white, but she was also rich and privileged, which is really stereotypical, and she's a very stereotypical lead actress. Like in other shows, you would expect a white woman to be rich and privileged and stuff like that. Another stereotype was the black to white ratio in prison. There were a lot more black women than white in the prison, which is a very stereotypical thought when thinking about a women's prison or any kind of prison. You think that there's always more black people than white people. Also, when it comes to the lesbians on the show, they're depicted very, very stereotypically. For example, most of them have short hair, tattoos, and talk in a deeper tone of voice, which is what people typically think lesbians look and sound like.